Hello everyone, Ether here, and welcome to another Video Horizon Castle Tour. If you want to watch the castle tour without me talking over it and just music playing in the background, then there'll be a video in the description and the comment section that'll be just that. It'll consist of a day tour, night tour, and a twilight tour. And so if you're interested in seeing this castle at daytime or at twilight, although the twilight tour is only for the gardens, then please check out that video. This guided tour will only be for the castle at nighttime, otherwise it would be far too long. You should have already seen some timestamps, so feel free to skip 2 sections you're only interested in, or you can watch the whole thing if you like. But you know, if you just want to see the gardens, then you can skip to that, or bedrooms, or whatever. Without further ado, let's get started in the castle tour of the Dunley Dungeons. I'm just kidding, this is the Mosswick Manor. And let's start this castle tour by looking at the location where it's located. So I placed it smack dab in the middle of the Dunley farmlands. And I placed it here. Well, actually, first off the name, Mosswick Village is close by, so since I'm horrible at naming things, I thought I'd decide to name it the Mosswick Manor because it's so close to it. I chose this plot though because of the 2 ponds on the north and the south side. Essentially I wanted to have 2 main gardens that focus around these ponds. And then also there was a lot of rocks on this plot, so this is where my cursor is right now. This is a huge rock wall. In fact, I thought this would be a detriment to the castle, where it creates some very unique rooms that is very unique to just this castle, I think. And then there's also rocks on the west side as well, which again creates some very unique areas and formations. Without further ado, let's start the castle tour. Let's start it in bat form, so we can get an aerial view of the castle. So if I look down, we can see the front garden. Behind it we have a lot of the guest entertainment area, where you have a courtyard, lounge, bar room, dining room, library, games room. If I pan over to the left, we can see the Mere de Chevalier, which is the main garden of the castle. And I named it the Mere de Chevalier because, a mere is like a lake, and Chevalier is like a knight, or it's like cavalry units is what I thought it described, and since there's 2 cavalry, or 2 horse statues on either side, I thought it was quite fitting. There's also a French, I think, author, whose name was, Chevalier de Marais. And I don't speak French, so I'm probably butchering that name, but I thought it was a bit clever, Mere de Chevalier. You know, it makes up the words a little bit, and it means, you know, like Lake of Night. I thought it was a bit clever. And it sounds very nice. Behind it we have the guest extension. And then this is the main portion of the castle I'm looking at right now. If I fly around it, see the rest of it. On the ground floor you have the servants' quarters. On the floor above you have a lot of the permanent residents. And on the top floor it's my own private quarters, so you have like the throne room, my bedroom, and some of my personal balcony, things like that. And we'll look at the Mere de Chevalier from this angle. Very nice. Down here we have the Hedge Gardens. This is the other lake I was talking about. And as we go over here, you can see a hedge maze. Very small, very simple to solve, but it's in a very small area. It's quite nice. Then once again we have the guest entertainment area. Here's the courtyard. The courtyard was one of the main reasons I wanted to build a castle in the first place. I wanted to have a garden completely surrounded by walls. And we'll explore this a little bit more on the ground. That's what it looks like from above. And this is the rock wall that I was talking about earlier. Creates these very private balconies, as you can see. And it creates a lot of shade during the daytime. Or maybe not a lot of shade, but create some shade. And now we're back at the front gardens. So I'll land myself here, and we'll start the ground tour. So we have a lot of these nice little seating areas. I tried a lot of different things with the hedges in this castle, and it looks quite nice, I think. We have a cherry blossom tree, the most beautiful tree in the game, of course. And then this fountain with a lot of blue flowers, give it that blue glow. That was quite nice. Another statue. And then we have this extension of the garden out here. And now let's ring the bell. Let's go inside. To the guest lounge. I'm gonna look at it from this angle. It's very similar to the Chevalier Chateau in the way it's formatted. You know, like, it's very symmetric, however, as we go along the wings here, see that they're not exactly the same. It's a bit of different furniture just to mix it up, make it a little bit more interesting. I'm gonna look at it from this. So here we can see this door here goes to the courtyard, and then we have the upper guest lounge, which we'll explore next. We'll start this off by actually looking straight down at the lower guest lounge. Very great view. And then of course you have just a lot more seating. This is, I think, is a great view of the castle, like of the guest lounge. You've got the statue overlooking everything, and then you've got these windows looking over such a beautiful garden. Let's continue our tour. Let's go outside to some of the balconies. So once again, you've got this outside balcony, and although you're outside, you've got this huge rock wall behind you, which provides a lot of privacy, I believe. Although it does detract from the views of the castle, as you can't see anything except for stone. But it creates a very, I don't know, it just feels very cozy. And it's a bit unfortunate because there is a farmer's market, you can see it in the background there, that is quite nice to look at, but you don't see it because of the rocks. This right here is just another lounge that overlooks the courtyard. Different angle there. There's not much else. Let's look at one of the larger guest balconies. Very similar feel, except the rocks are closer up and a bit taller. So there's a much more private area here. And then we'll go into the games room. I wanted this room to be a little bit different from like a lounge, and so I wanted this large table here for, you know, any guests if they want to play like a board game or something. You know, some Dungeons and Dragons, although I don't play Dungeons and Dragons myself. But you know, that type of feel. So I don't want every extra room to be a lounge in a castle. And it has this very beautiful balcony. Once again, you get flanked on one side by the roof, the other side by that rock wall. And then behind you, you've got this amazing tree, which provides shade throughout the day. Perfect location for a tree. And then if you look down to the left, you can see the front gardens. Let's make our way back to the guest lounge, and I'll tour the rest of the amenities. Wait, go all the way here and then make a left through this door, and we'll go down this hallway to the ballroom. It's a very quaint ballroom, I would say. Normally ballrooms are a lot larger. And I will note, I like to have chandeliers. You know, like if you're going to have a ballroom, it makes sense to have chandeliers. However, I felt it confined the space a little bit too much. And as you can see where the lights are, for some reason there's a lot of scratches on this floor. And I thought the larger chandeliers just brought those to light. So I didn't like that. There's not much else to it. However, this room is probably my favorite. Not my favorite, but it's still a great room. And it's so basic. This is the guest dining area. I think what makes this room so great to me is just how clean it is. However, you're completely outside, you can hear the birds. I was about to say birds chirping, but it's owls. so they don't choke. All the crickets and wind. And even though you are outside and you've got all the hedges and such, you've got this rock wall surrounding you. And it just creates this, I don't know, it just feels so private, so nice. I love this part of the castle. And I think it's very unique to just this plot. Down here, we've got the library. It's a pretty small library compared to the Silverlight Chateau. And of course we've got another Athenaeum. Not too much going on there. But now let's make our way to the courtyard. And this is the overall feeling I wanted to have, where you go into a guest lounge, and then you continue walking forward, and then you're greeted on either side by statues, and then there's this beautiful garden that you can just look at. I think it's quite amazing. Unfortunately, you don't get the boards, or the crickets and owls and whatnot, as technically this is an indoor area. Still nice, and this is probably one of the best views to have. Looks a lot more orange. Actually wonder if it's turning day. I don't think it is. I love this area. And because I did want it to be a bit more orange, I have some fire flowers down on the bottom in the corners. And then on all the sides you've got these seating areas. Or just passageways, I guess, because they're not all seating areas. And this of course goes into the barroom. That's why the furniture here is a little bit more higher class. A bit more fancy. And there's a lot more seating. Whereas there's no seating here. There's just two statues to welcome guests. As this goes to the Hedge Garden. And this area, I don't know why, but when you go from the Hedge Garden to the courtyard, it just looks amazing. By the way, we've got last lounge here. Just some seating on one side, and a statue on the other. I'll make our way through the guest lounge, and we'll take a right towards the grand hallway. As the name suggests, it's just a hallway. But this connects the two sections of the castle where all of the residents live, and where all the amenities are. There's a lot of detail in the hallway, for example. However, it's a lot, rinse and repeat the style of what's actually there, like vases with some statue or, grim ball in the middle. However, if you take this door out, you can see the Mirror du Chevalier. Very nice. You can actually stand above the water for some reason. Make our way. This goes to the courtyard. We saw that already. If you're interested in seeing it again. There it is. If we take a left here, we get to go to the first of the guest bedrooms. This is one of the cyan ones. Well, this is the cyan bedroom. I don't believe I have another cyan bedroom. You'll notice that all of the bedrooms are different colours, and they have very similar items in them, as it's a bedroom. What can you expect? Place to sleep, place to relax, place to study, and they have a wardrobe sometimes. They have windows of different, I think here you can see the Great Tree of Life is what I call that, although it's really just an ordinary oak tree. But the layouts of all of the rooms are slightly different. Each guest has a door in front of them, which welcomes them to the mirror. This one has a little seating for tea. This is the second of the guest bedrooms. Once again, different layouts, different paintings and such. But what's inside is much the same. This one has probably one of the greatest views though. But these shrubs always appear. Very nice. This is the last of the lower guest bedrooms, or the lower floor I should say. So there are 2 more guest bedrooms after this one. And then this one has a nice little fountain in front of it. And then we'll go through the servants' quarters, which as you can see, although it is very fancy, I used the darker walls because it's for the servants. Or I should say the dark wood walls, as this hallway is still supposed to be more white in nature. If we continue down here, we can go to the servants' dining hall, which is very large, don't think about it, because you'll see there's not many servant bedrooms. But the way I think about it, this can serve as an overflow for guests as well. If there's a lot of guests, you can have them here for dining. Or maybe this castle just has a lot more servants than you see. But I decided to keep this whole dining area outside, somewhat similar to the other dining area, because I love the views here of the path. Actually, while I remember, oh, it looks like my thing's bugged, so I can't really do that. But this tree here really annoys me as it goes into the castle. You can kind of see that at the top of my screen above. And it, you know, I'll just deal with it. But some pretty good views. But initially I had all of these where the hedges are. I had all of these be windows. And it was nice. But I thought not only was the lighting a little bit worse, but also you miss out on all of these really nice views where sometimes you can see patrols walk by. And you also get to see less of that giant rock in the middle. And then you have this private seating out here. That's what it looks like from this angle. And we'll go back to the servants' quarters. To the first of the bedrooms, this is for a maid. You might notice that the wallpapers are a lot different from the Chevalier Chateau. I tried some things where, for example, the ends are the basic wood wallpaper, but the sides have this fancy pattern on them. But of course, they're servant bedrooms, so they're very small in nature compared to the guest and permanent residents. This one's really fancy as there's a lot of purple in it, as I love the way the purple looks with the wood. But this is another maid bedroom. And then this is for the head maid in here. That's why it's slightly larger in nature. And then we'll make our way to the butler's bedroom. This is for 2 of the butlers, that's why it's the largest room. And also, I didn't want to have 2 rooms side by side with, you know, them ending just like 2 by 1 with a door at the end. It's very hard to build a bedroom like that. So I put them together so they share a bedroom. Very fancy. And they actually get a window of them here, which means this is probably my favorite of the servant bedrooms, just because of that window. And now we'll go to the baths, which is one of my favorite rooms in the castle. And I don't know how to describe it, but it just feels, well, first of all, it's different. I don't think I've ever built a bath area in a castle. However, it also just feels so nice, and of course it's open air bath, just make it fancy. And you have these rocks outside, which provide some great privacy, and I made sure that there's not really windows looking into here. as I believe like this rock blocks the other window. You know, just forget you see that. But pretend the rock blocks a window and then this wall blocks the other window, which it mostly does. I don't know, it's so nice. I love the colouring in here. I use the lamps, provide that orange colouring, or more yellowish orange. We'll continue down here to the guest lounge. Oh, sorry, not a guest lounge, the servants' lounge. However, it can function as a guest lounge for anyone who's outside in the mere. Very nice. And then we'll go explore the Mere de Chevalier on the ground. However, before we get to there, I'd like to show you one of my favourite spots outside. Underneath this tree, and when I saw this spot, I knew I just wanted to make a castle here. It's still in the daytime, this is still very shaded. If I pan over here, you can see the waterfall. You have the lake on top, and then the lake on the bottom. And the lake has this like beautiful rock formations all around it. And I think that's amazing. And down here you can see the rock formations I was talking about. Very interesting. But let's continue our path down the mere. I'll actually take a look at the pond from this angle. And then this fountain here. I was thinking of redoing this fountain a little bit, as initially my idea was I wanted it to be the small flowers going up to the larger flowers, as I actually thought bleeding hearts were taller than morning lilies, but as you can see, I was quite wrong, as the bleeding hearts somewhat droop a little bit lower. However, I also wanted morning lilies to somewhat sprout out of the fountain. However, it looks like it just clips into them, which is a bit unfortunate. So, perhaps I should put morning lilies on the side and the snowflowers in the middle. By the way, we have the mere again. Nice tea area. And this castle actually has a teleporter built into it, unlike the Silverlight Chateau, where you could put a teleport in it, but it looked a little bit out of place. This one has a nice little overgrown garden connected to it. At the end of the mere, we have this beautiful apple tree. Why it's an apple tree instead of another tree, I don't really know. I just wanted to use an apple tree at some point. And it provides a lot of shade during the day. Very nice view of the mere. And speaking of nice view, you can actually go out here and look at it from this angle. However, the better angle would be through all of the shrubbery. We have a nice little tea area as well, a bit overgrown. But keep walking. Get this amazing view here. And this makes me wish there was a force post in the game. So you could look out, you could see this like stream or lake connected to this large waterfall. You would just look at the castle from this angle. Unfortunately, it's only third person. So let's make our way back to the inside of the castle. Make our way there to the garden, and we'll actually explore the Hedge Garden next. And to do that, we'll take a right here instead of going forward. We have a different layout to the rest of the hallway. And then we have the Hedge Gardens. We have another statue of me, of course. It is my castle. And then you have this beautiful seating area here. We can lie down. Like this beautiful pond. Or if you're not scared of the dirt, you can lie down here. Behind this beautiful flower here. Sometimes it's not as nice, sometimes it's grass, sometimes it's a blood rose, which is quite spiky. where you can see this beautiful waterfall, very quiet, to a small pond, and you can see the deer crossing, and of course, you can see Matilda with the bright red eyes staring into my soul in the background over there. It's a lovely view. I'll get a bit more of it as we make our way down the path here. As you can see through the hedges here, we have a different view. And if we make our way through the gate here, get to Great Tree of Life, which is actually very nice to sit around. And it provides shade throughout most of the day. And then we'll explore the Hedge Gardens. So right here is a little bit of a resting area with a cherry blossom tree. Of course I have to use a cherry blossom tree, they are too beautiful not to use. Initially I had a fountain here, but I like having a tree that provides shade throughout the entire day actually, in case of that area. And if we get over here, we can see the grand prize of the hedge maze, which is the castle hut. And the castle hut is here because really, I had nowhere else to put it. But I wanted to put it in like a dining hall or like maybe a lounge, but it just always looked out of place, and of course it has to be on the ground floor. And so I thought it'd be nice tucked away in this corner, and then I thought it'd be nice to have the hedge maze connected to it. So it's a grand prize. Make our way here. Oh, it's a dead end. Oh no. I'm lost. And then if you go out here, it's the end of the hedge maze. Very difficult to actually get lost in that. And of course we've got Courtyard here. This is what I was talking about. It just looks so amazing from this angle. I don't know why. And if you are wondering, I'll quickly show. So, of course, unfortunately, my building is bugged. But as you can see, all of these are like the pillars. You can place the columns and such right next to each other and create mazes like this. And that's how I made the maze. But we'll continue down the path here and we'll make our way to the residence lounge, which is just through this door and going straight. So once again, this is for the permanent residence of the castle, and so it's very fancy in nature. We'll go down here to some of the seating. So just a few seats at the end here. I used to have a door where this bust is, and as you can tell there's actually a stairway going up to here, but I felt it was so out of place, as why would there be a door here that really honestly just leads to a path and that's it. There's no garden out here, it's not very nice, and so I took it out and replaced it with a wall. We've got these nice little side seating here. And then you've got some more private seating on the corners. This picture is supposed to be of me, even though it looks nothing like me. It's probably the closest to it. So that's what I use for rooms that are for me. It's the lounge from this angle, and of course this is just more private seating. And let's make our way up. And if you look down, you can somewhat see the grand walkway here with the statues on either side. As by design, you can't see the rest of it. That's why I don't have banners in the middle, but banners on the side. That way, when you're up here, your focus is mainly of this upper area, but if you do focus on the down, like the lower residence lounge, you see those lovely statues. very, very fancy. You might also notice that the top portion is more white based, but the bottom portion is supposed to have a darker black base. Although once again the walls themselves are, like the pillows are white, and so it just looks very white in general. I've got some more seating here, and let's look at some of the permanent residents of the castle. So here you've got the paladin. This is supposed to be a portrait of him. It's the closest one that looked like a strong vampire, right? Or strong port servant, like noble. So I thought somewhat fitting of a paladin. But it's a very large room compared to the guest rooms. And he actually gets the largest balcony out of all of the residents. Including myself, actually, now that I think about it. But that's because he has this massive, I don't know what you would call this, bell on stick. I'm not too sure, it's like a mace, right? Giant mace. So, you know, he needs to practice swinging the sword around. So he gets a large, oh no, it's not a sword, the mace. He needs some areas to practice that. And then of course you get a lovely view of the patrol paths. Let's make our way to the last two residents of the castle, excluding myself, where they have this nice hallway with a statue of me at the end. So here we've got Botanica. Oh, I guess his name's Templar with an A. This here is Botanica. She's a bit studious. And of course that's the tree I was talking about earlier, where it cuts through the wall here and it looks very annoying, but I can't place anything there. This I thought looked the closest to a light weaver, just because of the hair. Looks very good. Of course she's studious, so she gets a lot more bucks. A lot more places to sit down and read, and talk to guests. And then we'll go to Oakno Hunter's room. Oakno Hunter is a strategist, so I thought this looked like the smartest, strategic-minded portrait. So he gets a few bucks, but he also gets a chess set, as he loves playing chess, because he's a strategy guy. And that's what people who strategize do, they play chess. He actually has an outside chess set too, because he needs two chess sets, don't think about it. But this is probably one of the greatest views, I think. I say one of the greatest, but it's just a lovely view, where you see you've got the rock formation separating the castle from this pond out there. And you can just see so much with the patrol path as well. Initially, this wall used to be non-existent. However, I thought it was a little bit awkward because there's the baths down there. So I removed it. Well, I added it to separate this balcony from that. Like Oakno Hunter has joined us for a round of chess, although I will be lightly declining, as we need to go upstairs to my private quarters. And so the lights are blue, which means I'm welcoming guests. If they were red, I wouldn't be a welcoming guest, and that means that the whole upper area would be my own private study. But since, you know, we're doing a tour, they are blue. As you can see here, got these very grand banners welcoming you. All the way up here, up down the stairs so you can see this view. Fortunately, C5 is blocking some of the pillars. Right here you got my own balcony, which is the only true balcony that overlooks the mere, or the only true balcony connected to like a bedroom. It's probably one of the best views of the castle. I love this area. Got my own little study desk here, so I can study while looking at all of this. Very nice. I love this balcony. Then we'll go down this hallway, and we'll look at the throne room. So a very, very small throne room compared to what a lot of castles have. However, it's very clean. I wanted to have carpet going down the middle, that's why there's a carpet here. However, the carpet kept clipping into each other and it didn't look right, and then they delete each other, and so this is just what I did for now. And then we've got the red lighting in the background from the throne, and I'll sit down here so you can see what it looks like as emissaries from other countries and such to visit me. And then I have 2 seats on either side for my ambassadors or advisors. And in case you're wondering, the red lighting's just from these bone chandeliers. I use bone chandeliers because they're very small, so you can hide them quite well. And then those red cannon bearers or candle stuff on the sides. I'm blanking on the name. And Bella? I think that's part of your brain. By the way, at the end of this hallway, you've got my own private bedroom. And unlike the Chevalier Chateau, I've kept it very clean. And I like this a lot more. Because you've actually got my bed separated by, the walls and stuff, so it's sectioned off a little bit, with the 2 statues guarding it, and it just looks so clean. Especially since it's very hard to fit a stone bed in a bedroom, and I think this is the best way to do it. You just separate it off by 1. But here you've got a beauty area with, jewelry, some clothing, and then cosmetic station. Over here, we've got just some seating and another study. And then the finest of bloods around all of Mortium. I forget what this place is called. This ward that we are in, V Rising. But that's it for my private quarters. Let's make our way down to the rest of the balconies. Look at this view again, although I won't stop too long. You've already saw it from my balcony. This used to be a lounge, but then I wanted guests to walk around to bring some life to the castle. And I thought that was a pretty neat idea, until, you hear doors open all the time, and then you have to tone your sound effects down because it gets really annoying. So I probably won't do that in future castles. I'll keep them confined to the bedrooms. But it does bring some life to the castle, so it does have that positive. This is another great view of the castle. Look at it from here. Although the tree somewhat blocks it. And you can actually look out to the same rock formation that we were looking at before. And then this is... I love this lounge. It's very nature themed, the wood with the green curtains. It's lovely. Very basic. And then of course you've got this knight just permanently walking into the chair. He refuses to be moved. I could just move the chair and let him walk, but he's dedicated to having his way. Now let's make our way to one of the guest bedrooms. And this one I call the princess room, where the princess will actually free her. I call it the princess room because it's pink and white and very grand, and it's the largest guest bedroom. I love how it looks from this angle right here. Of course, she's got a little tea area right here, which overlooks the Hedge Gardens and the pond below. And then she's actually choosing her clothes right now, but Got her own walk-in closet. I love the way the lights are in the background. Makes it very bright, very nice. That's it for this bedroom. Now, I'll skip over that for now, that's where I'll end the tour. This is the knight's bedroom. Yes, the knight who is portently stuck in that lounge. This is where he should be. Very nice. I don't like it as much as the princess room, but it's still quite nice. And the views here are probably better as this one overlooks the pond directly. You can actually look to the left and see some of the hedges. And then this one should look over the tree, the great tree. Which is such a beautiful view. You can actually see it clearly today. Now we'll make our way to the last portion of the castle. But before we do, we have this area here where you don't have walls, so you can actually see the hedge maze and a bit of the Hedge Gardens. You can laugh at people who get stuck in the hedge maze, as it truly is unfortunate if they get lost in that. And then you have this angle as well of the mere. And then another lounge, very small, not too much special, but overlooks the courtyard, this one. And then you've got probably the best view of the mere. I'm gonna say that for every single view of the mere. Every view is the best view. But I love the way it looks from this angle for some reason. Probably because you can see the waterfall as well. And a bit more of the pillows. And then this of course goes into the guest lounge. It's where we did not explore before. Or the portion of guest lounge we did not explore before. And let's make our way to the center of this balcony, where we have this great statue of myself. And I know it's such a small detail, but I love how it's like, I have the detailed bit in the back and then the sides are very basic. I like the way that looks. And then of course, I'm using the alchemy flooring so it says Aethel, though I don't think you can see where it says Aethel, which is unfortunate. But I'm overlooking the hall here in the center. And you know what? I think this tops it. I think this is the best view. Once again, I'm going to say that for every view. But at this point, you can kind of see the whole idea I was going for with the grand pillars on either side. They're very centered around the pond or the mere. Fortunately, the mere is not centered, but I don't know. I love this view. But anyway, that'll be it for this castle tour. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you liked the castle. If you're interested in seeing it in daytime or twilight, then go check out the silent version I have. But anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.